So a few things about me. I was born and raised in Vancouver. I lived here until my early 20s and then moved away for education and then came back shortly after. I've lived here most of my adult life, and I plan to live the remainder of my adult life here. So I care a lot about what's going to happen in this city, and that's part of what's driven me to be here in front of you today. I was an assistant professor for several years at SFU, and I now work at Statistics Canada. And so I've been given permission to run as a political candidate. That took a little bit of work, but that's been done. I have a research background in housing-related things. I also studied a bunch of other stuff, but that was my core focus in recent years was housing policy, housing economics, that kind of thing. And as part of being with SFU, I learned how to kind of think about policy and how you think about designing good policy and thinking about the trade-offs that are involved with policy. And as some of you may know, I was a vocal participant in the debate around housing affordability in Vancouver, especially the role of foreign money in the mid-2010s. And in that debate, I tried to help residents or citizens in Vancouver, but also more broadly in BC and Canada, kind of cut through a lot of the misinformation and misdirection that was being thrown their way by the real estate industry. And so that's kind of how I see my role to some extent potentially with TEAM is, cutting through some of the misinformation that exists on housing-related topics, land use policy, those types of things. My concern is that, on a lot of these debates, people are just being told things that are not accurate. They're being promised things that cannot be delivered, or are being told that certain things lead to this, and that's not the case, but it benefits certain, very powerful people in this city to have certain narratives told about the housing situation. And the issue is that for about a decade now, Vancouverites have been fed a steady diet of the view that essentially they are the problem. That, if only they got out of the way, we would have a much better housing affordability situation. And that if we aggressively upzoned everywhere, reduced resident input, reduced the amount of public benefit that we capture from upzoning, those are the tools that we need, those are the policies that we need in order to achieve housing affordability. And that view, which is often associated with YIMBYism, or quote unquote, yes in my backyard, that's simply wrong, empirically and morally. And I've written about it. I'm not gonna go into a big long spiel about it. We don't have the time, that's okay, for another time. But one thing I will say is that it is an agenda that Vancouverites should reject, and TEAM has stood up against it, generally speaking. And I will also say that there is something that I've noticed about that agenda, which is that the people who push it typically are not the ones who are going to be impacted by the major transformations that are being proposed. And so I'd like to point out that it's easy being a YIMBY when it's not actually your backyard. And so this is a problem because residents have real legitimate concerns, and often in the name of this ideology, those concerns, real legitimate concerns, are being waved away. And in my view, instead, residents and their concerns should be integrated into policy at each and every stage, and that there should be clear mechanisms of democratic accountability for any proposals to dramatically transform people's neighborhoods in various ways. And so that's what I hope to push for. Now, given that you're all sitting here, I think you understand that the problem is that this view that I kind of have been alluding to has taken hold at City Hall, notwithstanding the reversal of the Villages Plan, which was kind of the rejection of that view, but in the face of an upcoming election, oh shit, they ran for the hills. But it is deeply embedded. And so we have a City Hall, both city staff and council, that is happy to mislead its residents. For example, we have in planning documents and public documents the notion that 6 to 8 story buildings are low-rise. Now, if you see a 6 to 8 story building in Vancouver, you probably don't think low-rise, but that's how it's described, right? And it's been allowed to be described like that, even though that's not kind of consistent, right? So why wouldn't we just be honest with people about what we're actually proposing? They want to abandon public hearings, right? They want to sideline residents in that manner. Make sure that they don't actually ever have to listen to people and their real concerns. And unfortunately, they've watered down and weakened a long tradition of capturing public benefits for community betterment when it comes to upzoning. And so far too often we're giving massive giveaways to developers and land speculators that should be actually put in the pockets in various ways of Vancouverites, both in kind in terms of community centers and otherwise. And so that's part of why I'm standing to run with Team, is that it's the only party that has consistently pushed back against this misguided and cynical agenda. And it is the only party that will be able to turn the tide, in my view. And so I hope to be able to mobilize Vancouver residents to vote for Team and to create the turn and the change that we need moving forward. Thank you.